Hey folks, this is Phelan McFarlane here. It's a beautiful Friday morning, and I wanted to do a very short podcast to discuss Matthew chapter 24, verse 35, where Christ said, "Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words will not pass away." You know, we've been talking over the last couple of days about that 40-year type, that 40-year wilderness type, and what it signifies, and then, of course, the aftermath of the 40 years in each case, what happened after the Israelites got into the Promised Land, and how they applied all those modes of worship and institutions of worship to where they were going. So they continued that worship once they entered the land. And I brought out the antitype. I said, well, everything that was instituted during the 40 years between AD 30 and AD 70, that was brought over.
Past AD 70.
And established. So it sort of jives with the whole concept that Christ is talking about in Matthew chapter 24, verse 35, where he says, "Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away." I've been talking to some over the last few days that seem to believe that Christ's words passed away in AD 70. Of course, they haven't said that, but if you really listen carefully to what they're teaching and to their conclusions, the conclusions of their doctrine, yeah, well, that's pretty much where they're headed. That Christ's words passed away, and I think what they're doing is they're confusing the Old Covenant and the New Covenant. The New Covenant is the antitype of the Old Covenant. If you don't believe me, go read Hebrews. Read the whole thing through, and then come back and re-listen to this, and you'll understand better what I'm saying. The New Covenant is the antitype of the Old Covenant. Christ is the antitype of Moses. There are two lawgivers. Moses is a lawgiver of the old dispensation. Christ is a lawgiver of the new dispensation. Each had a system of doctrine that was applied to his respective economy. Moses had his system of doctrine that was instituted in the wilderness. Christ had a system of doctrine that was instituted in the wilderness. All that stuff, that furniture and paraphernalia was brought over when the Israelites entered Canaan. All the doctrines and the institutions of worship of Christianity were carried over and applied once the 40 years from AD 30 to AD 70 were ended. So it's a perfect antitype of the Mosaic economy. The main difference, I should say, is that the New Covenant looks not only at externalities, but examines motive and intent as well. So Christ internalized the law in the Sermon on the Mount, showing its true character is in dealing with intent. Important stuff, folks, and I know I keep saying that.
Important.
But it's easy, full preterists, they really do misunderstand the whole nature and intent of Christ's ministry. They misunderstand the whole nature and intent of the gospel, and what they're eventually left with is a bag of, it's a mixed bag of, things that are broken and things that actually work. Probably more things that are broken than things that actually are functional. They take little bits and pieces of the old economy and they carry them over, but there's no system. They don't have an actual system. If you talk to, depending on who you talk to, one guy might say, this applies today and this doesn't. Another guy might say, we're resurrected when we die. Another guy says, oh no, we're resurrected right now. Another guy says, we don't need to be resurrected. Another guy says, we're in heaven now. Another guy says, we got to wait to go to heaven until we die. Another guy says, heaven's just a place. Another guy says, heaven's no place, it's a state. One person says, death is spiritual. Another person says, death is covenantal. Another person says that Christ died a physical death. Another person says that his atonement is covenantal or spiritual in nature.
Stuff like that.
We don't want to be so confused is that we miss the gospel message. We don't want to be so confused as that we miss salvation, because there's a possibility of missing out on the final journey, and we don't want to do that, right? So we want to get back to brass tacks. We want to get back to the starting point. We want to find out where we got off the rails so we can get back on the main road and continue our walk with Christ. And we want to do that by being honest with ourselves, by understanding where the lines and the boundaries are, and topology really helps us to do that. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. So when you read the Sermon on the Mount, when you read any of Christ's parables, understand that all that stuff still applies today. Think about these things, revolve them, turn them over in your mind, and we'll get back to you later with another one, hopefully, if I have a chance. But thanks again for stopping by. Have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.